Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to talk about the next book in the Watchers of the Throne series, which is of course The Regents Shadow by Chris Wraight. This chap has been producing some absolutely stunning pieces of literature for 40k for some time now. I am completely addicted to anything that Chris Wraight puts out. Anything he touches seems to turn into absolute gold, and this book is no different. Some of the stuff that happens, the story, everything that's involved in it is just mind-blowingly awesome. So let's jump in and let's get talking. Now, of course, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't read the book, you're currently reading the book, you're doing what you're doing with the book, and you don't want to be spoiled, then please stop this video right now, turn back. This is your first and only warning. I would also suggest, if you haven't read the first book of the Watchers of the Throne series, which is called The Emperor's Legion, then you definitely need to do that before jumping into this. If you want to catch up with that book, again, I've done a video about all the spoilers in it, the story, what happens, everything like that. If you want to go and watch that video, then there is a link in the top right hand of the screen on this video. Click on that and that'll take you there. You can watch it all, get caught up, and then come back and enjoy this spoiler discussion about this book. Anyway, so let's jump in and let's get started, because this book had it all. I was completely blown away with it. It was just amazing. It had, of course, Custodes, Trajan Valoris, it had the Sisters of Silence, it had Imperial Fist, Torgaridon makes an appearance. We'll get into all this later on. The Minotaur chapter was there at full strength. Amazing. The High Lords, the politics, assassins. Oh my holy emperor, this book was just awesome. It had everything. It had the action, it had the politics, the backstabbing, everything that you expect that happens like on the high levels between the High Lords and all between the Custodes and how they act, and the Imperial not the Imperial Fist, the actual Space Marines, and their interactions with the Custodes. It was all just put down perfectly, and it was just such an awesome time listening to it. I absolutely loved this book from start to finish. Now, this story takes place more or less directly after the first book's story, maybe just a couple of weeks to a month after it. The main characters are still around, so you have Valerian, which is of course the main Custode character. You have Alea, who is a main Sister of Silence character, but we're introduced to a new character called Jack. Now, for those of you who are aware from the first book, Jack was one of the helpers of the main character from the first book called Tyrion. Now, he's since retired and stepped back from his duties because he was basically getting too old and stuff like that, and she's took over from his position. So these are the viewpoints you have now in the book: Valerian, Alea's, and Jack's. As I mentioned, this book takes place, just a couple of weeks after, and one of the first things we actually come across is Valerian and Alea are being rewarded for their actions in the previous novel, what they actually did. Guilliman rewards Valerian with a nice golden laurel on his armor, which Valerian doesn't really want to accept, but in the end he actually accepts it for showing off, the Custodes have kind of out there helping and that kind of stuff. He actually thinks that his brothers will look down on him somewhat, because that's what not really Custodes are all about. They're not about, their so-called receiving gifts and all that kind of stuff. It's just their duty to defend and act and stuff like that. So he was on the edge of taking it or not, but in the end he did decide to take it. Alea was rewarded a brand new a greatsword. This greatsword has a lot of history to it. Guilliman was about to actually tell Alea the actual history of the sword, and she was like, wait, stop. No, I don't want to. I don't know anything about it. That will increase the burden of me wielding this ancient weapon. Just give it to me, and that is it. That's all. Now, just like the first book, this is a very political driven book, which I absolutely love. I'm a huge fan of politics in 40k, especially when it's written so fantastically well by Chris. Now, in the first book, you'll know that there's a lot of politics back and forth, and this one, for me, takes it to the next level. Now, what's happened is that since Guilliman has returned, he's basically got rid of some of the High Lords. One of the High Lords was killed. It doesn't say execute or anything. I think it was the Lord of the Navigator House. I think that may be something to do with the Great Rift, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really recall if they actually mentioned it anywhere in the book. Actually, I don't think they did. But anyway, Guilliman basically kept a few, and he replaced them with ones who more or less were on the same wavelength of Guilliman going forward and bringing a new era to the Imperium. Now, this is where we first get the discussion of basically a sect of the High Lords, which take a position known as the static tendency. And basically what this means is that they want the Imperium to go back on like it was. They see what Guilliman's doing is basically heresy. The Emperor hasn't kind of willed this in their eyes, and whatever actions he takes, they're not basically happy with. Of course, most of this comes from them losing their power, or some of them losing their power, and there's others on the council that actually sway with the ones who have been dismissed, and they actually think we should actually go back to the old ways when the Imperium was how it was. Because what's happened is Guilliman came back, he basically reinstated some new High Lords, got rid of the other ones, and then he more or less took most of the resources from Terra and the near systems and launched the Indominus Crusade. So basically Terra is kind of starving, it's without food, there's a lot of rioting still going on, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in Terra, and people are not happy. And the High Lords, well, some of the High Lords look on this and they're like, this is crap. We should go back to how it was. We never had any of these problems before. Of course, they can't see that the great enemy is upon them now. The Great Rift has happened, but they don't want that. They just want things to go back at how it was, because they thought they were all fine and dandy, sitting in their high palaces and stuff like that. This is why Guilliman's took all these resources to try and combat the enemy, but they can't understand that or see past their bloody big noses because of it. Now, with all this chaos that's going actually on Terra, there's a lot of cult activity and everything like that. It's absolutely in chaos at the moment because, the rioting and everything that I mentioned. There's a group which is referred to as the Splintered. That's actually their name, the Splintered. And Valoris sets up basically a kind of mini new chamber with Valerian as the shield captain. I think there's 7 custodians in general in this, and they're all from the different sects of the custodies, like the Solar, and just all the different ones. So it's not just just like the main shiny custodian guys. Each has a different viewpoint and stuff like that, and they basically go out to try and uncover information about this, try and stop these splintered groups, because they're actually causing a lot of chaos. They're taking places. They're very, very organized, and this is something that Valerian is trying to find out. Why are these chaps so organized? Where are they getting all this type of stuff from, which is causing all this mess, which is causing all this devastation? And to help out with the custodians as well, the Phalanx has basically been sent back to Terra by Rebute, and on the Phalanx is more or less a depleted company of Imperial Fists. I think there's around 80 Imperial Fists. The Phalanx is badly damaged after its battle at Cadia. I remember when it first appeared, and the High Admiral is in orbit, who, by the way, is also a High Lord at this point. And she looks on the Phalanx, and Jek's there as well, and they make note that it's just so vast, it's so massive in the guns, but some of the damage that it's sustained is just mind-blowing. It's just there's a complete side of it that's just all wrecked, and they think, could this ever be repaired again? It's a really, really cool thing. But what we actually learn is that the captain who's commanding the Phalanx is Tor Garadon, and I was like, oh boy, yes, awesome, Tor Garadon is here. But the really, really cool thing about this is that this is before Tor Garadon receives his Primaris upgrade, because when he meets Valerian, because he goes to assist Valerian, to help them out with the splintered groups and stuff like that, to try and stop all this chaos and activity and just destroy the evilness. It's mentioned that the Primaris are around and stuff, and are any in your ranks, and there's actually none in the Imperial Fist ranks, as of yet. And of course, we know that Targaryen is a Primaris Marine now, so this is way before he received his upgrade, which is a kind of cool nod. So it was basically Targaryen before he got bigger and his chin become more epic. Now, like I said, the Custodes and the Imperial Fist are working close together, but there's another thing that's in play here as well, in that Valoris basically told Valerian that he wants the Imperial Fist to basically be known as the leaders. Like, those are the ones that'll take all the glory in a way. He doesn't really want the Custodes to take the limelight, because he doesn't want people to start looking towards the Custodes to fix everything. So Valoris says to Valerian, basically, whatever actions are taken, make sure it's the Imperial Fist that are made out to be the victors, not you Custodes, because we want to remain what we're doing, and we don't need that kind of attention pointed towards us. Again, Valoris is also a High Lord at this point. He's actually on the council now, so he doesn't only serve the Custodes, he also serves the High Lords and the Imperium as a whole. Now let's just jump over to Alea, because I want you to bring up to speed with her story, because that ties in to where I'm going to be talking about in a second. Now, Alea basically spoke to Guilliman before Guilliman left, and Guilliman told Alea that he's giving full power for the sisters to go back to Luna, to their basically temple slash cathedral slash castle slash sanctuary that was inhabited by the sisters, long ago during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy. There's some custodians that are still out there in the galaxy bringing back new sisters. She goes there because, of course, she wants to start the sisterhood again, the Sister of Silence again. She wants to make it powerful again. Plus, she absolutely hates Terra. She's so mean, Alea, like in her actions and the way she's just so blunt. I absolutely love it. She's absolutely amazing in this book, the way she interacts and stuff like that. So she goes back there and she meets basically her boss, and they have a little discussion about what happened to the old sisters. Why did they just vanish all of a sudden? So she assigns Valea basically a kind of like detective task to go and find as much research as you can to see what happens. Now, while the Sisters of Silence have not been in that place, there's basically like some like temple watchers, not like the mini ones like in the Rock who hide the Dark Angels. These like people who remember the sisters from thousands of years back through word of mouth and stuff, and it's their descendants, and they've looked after the place ever since. And there's one that really gets close to Alea. He's like her servant and stuff, and she absolutely hates him. Like, he's always miring her and stuff like that, and she's like, I just want to slap him and stuff. She really treats him really, really bad, but in a way she actually does kind of like him. Anyway, they go on a little quest, their investigation quest, and they don't really find anything. They learn stuff about some of the cloning stuff, some of the gene Hans labs and stuff like that of Luna. I won't really go into that, because you really should get the book and go through it all, because there's some nice hints there to the Horus Heresy and stuff like that. Really, really cool that Chris has incorporated that in from those stories and stuff. So basically, they go back to the thing and they haven't really found anything. But what happens is that she's I think she's in a sparring session, and she keeps getting a call off her basically servant, and he's like, please come to the control room really quick. You need to come quickly. So she goes there really quick, and he's like going really, really mad, saying, you have to stop this ship. There's a ship that's about to dock, which is basically it's said on the manifest that it's full of potential adepts to come in and to become Sisters of Silence. He's like, no, it's fake. Please stop this. Please. It's a trap. It's your end again. And Alea believes him in the end. There's another Sister of Silence there who tries to stop her and him, and she just absolutely just smashes her against the face and stuff, and just takes control of the situation. And they manage to close the doors in time, and this thing crashes, and it's absolutely full of explosives. Basically, someone has sent like this ship there to go in there and just blow up and kill them all. So there's definitely something that hates the Sisters of Silence. We don't know at this stage what it is. So the commander then basically sends Alea to track whatever this is down. We find out that it was an assassin attempt, and sorry, of course it was assassination attempt to try to kill them all. She finds the assassin. The assassin kills herself. I think she eats some of her poison in a tooth or something. She leads an investigation, and she actually finds out it is one of the old High Lords who are basically trying to get rid of her. I should say really get rid of them as Sisters of Silence, because it's not just Alea they want to kill. Of course, it's the whole order of Sisters of Silence. And what I mean by them is that when they find the assassin and the information that gets back to them, they find out it was one of the old High Lords who basically has a grudge against the Sisters, and it is the High Lord of the Ecclesiarch who basically Guilliman got rid of. Guilliman got rid of a couple of High Lords, as I mentioned. The two main ones was the Master of the Administratum and the Ecclesiarch High Lord as well. And it's basically, it comes to fruition that the Ecclesiarchy hates the Sisters of Silence, and this old High Lord wanted to get rid of them because they have no souls, and he sees them as abominations. And it also basically links back to 10,000 years ago. It was basically the Ecclesiarchy that took the actions that more or less purged the Sisters of Silence, just probably not long after the Horus Heresy, but that's not really spoken about, but it's more or less hinted about that, it was them in the first place, and they've come back to reenact that again. So she goes down to Terra then to seek vengeance, to find this High Lord and bring justice. Now, if we return to Valerian and Tor Garadon, who are down there hunting these Splintered groups, so-called Splintered again, that is the name they call themselves, and there's an awesome scene where Chris basically writes the Imperial Fist, probably one of the best Imperial Fist accounts I've ever read, where he talks about their bolt of fire and Valerians watching them and how precise they are and how they move and stuff like that, and it's just amazing. I was like, yes, please give me more glorious Tor Garadon. Now, the big thing that happens here is that while they're fighting this group of Splintered, a couple of Minotaurs show up, and oh boy, does it nearly kick off. I was like, oh boy, are these going to start killing each other? Stuff really starts heating up. Tor Garadon goes into a rage, like he distrusts the Minotaurs. The Minotaurs just bring destruction wherever they go. They don't really care about the population and everything like that. They don't care basically until they get the job done. Now, the funny thing is that in my video the other day, when I talk about Traitor Dream Seed and should it be used in Loyalist chapters, the person who basically wrote the Minotaur stuff confirmed that they were founded with the Iron Warrior Gene Seed. So it's a nice kind of back and forth, like in a way that it's the Imperial Fist disliking the Sons of Perturabo once more, but I'm sure that they don't know it's the Sons of Perturabo, because that would have been like maximum kind of get the hell out of my face at the moment. So they have a bit of a standoff, and the Minotaurs basically just they just leave, because Valerian intercedes and says, all right, stop this now, stop it all. So he stops them before they actually come to blows. One of the actual cool things about this, before like the Minotaurs leave, is that they actually have Primaris. There's a Primaris in their ranks, and Valerian, being a Custodes, he's never seen a Primaris before, and he looks him up and down, like thinking like how best to beat him, how would I do this, how would I do that. It'd be nice to me to like basically spar one and see how it goes. This is the really cool thing about Custodes. They're always thinking. They're so different from Space Marines. That's actually mentioned when the Imperial Fist and the Custodes start fighting. Valerian basically just issues one order, like go, and all of a sudden he's so surprised that he just hears a roar of "For the Emperor" and all that kind of stuff coming from the Space Marines, and the Custodes are just basically silent as they rip their way through the enemies and stuff like that. It's such a cool little thing, just how different Custodes are and how different like normal Space Marines are, especially the Imperial Fist screaming for the Emperor and all that kind of stuff. Now Jack learns of the Minotaurs arriving, and she's like, oh boy, not again, because she knows the Minotaurs are kind of tied in to the High Lords, but she thinks it's controllable because apparently it's only one squad of Minotaurs that has landed to assist whatever the hell is going on. But surprise, it is not, basically the full chapter of Minotaurs has arrived. So the Imperial Fist are outnumbered. Like I said, the Imperial Fist only have around 80 people, and the phalanx is battered and stuff. The full Minotaurs chapter has arrived to aid the High Lords and trying to bring this situation to heel. What the hell is going on? And as I mentioned, the way the Minotaurs do their things is that it's not very, very good. They just go in, they destroy, they wreck things, they get the job done, but at the cost of everyone who is in the area. Now, Valoris tries to calm this whole situation because Torgarion, like I said, he hates him. So he basically sets up a kind of like a mini council. So who you have in this council is an Imperial Fist lieutenant belonging to the Imperial Fist. You have a Minotaur. I don't think his rank's mentioned, to be completely fair. He's just a Minotaur. And they basically have a little liaison with each other about joint operations and stuff. It is actually noted that on some days the Minotaurs are really, really helpful to the Imperial Fist. Other days they just ignore them, and other days they're just there to make the Imperial Fist job more difficult. Some days, like when the Imperial Fist deploy, the Minotaurs deploy before them, destroy everything and get out of there, and the Imperial Fist are basically just left with nothing there. It actually comes to blows in the end, because 2 Imperial Fists are actually killed investigating a site off the Minotaurs, and you have this like they're both liaison officers, like the Imperial Fist and the Minotaur officer were just absolutely punching the living daylights out of each other, like, just going full-on berserker mode on each other, smacking each other up and down because, of course, what happened to the 2 Imperial Fists. Jekk's there. Jekk's like, I can't stop this. Jekk's like the High Chancellor and stuff with all her power. She's basically like a mini High Lord. Of course, she's not a High Lord. She just runs the High Lords and stuff like that, makes sure all their wishes and stuff, and she doesn't have the power to do that. She just has to stand aside. Eventually, a Custodian comes, breaks it all up. The Minotaur basically says, right, I'm out of here. You guys suck. And the Imperial Fist says, right, that's it, it's over. So basically the Minotaurs and the Imperial Fist are no longer working with each other. There's a lot more into it. I'm just skating over it at the moment. It really is if you haven't listened to this, read it, it's so good. It really is an amazing read. Now, Jekk plays a big part in this as well. Sorry, I haven't really mentioned that much. I really should have. So Jekk, as I mentioned, is the Chancellor. So basically, she holds a really, really high position of power. She does some investigating herself, and she comes across that the High Lord of the Assassins has basically been holding some assassins back on Terra. He falsified some reports, and she thinks that maybe he is the traitor that's causing all this kerfuffle, because he leans on the static tendency, as I mentioned, things that should be. So she goes to the new High Lords who have been put in place by Guilliman. The first High Lord is the Lord Commander Militant, and the second High Lord is the High Admiral, who both have been put in the position by Rabute. Rabute put a lot more military combatants on the council because, of course, that would benefit him when he's doing the Indominus Crusade. So Jekk goes to the High Admiral and tells her the information, and she says, "Okay, thanks for that. We'll work together a bit more, and we'll do all this kind of thing to try and resolve it." Now, there's a few more battles and stuff, and what we eventually learn is that the Minotaurs are basically getting to the places before the Imperial Fist and the Custodes, because they're getting the information off a certain High Lord. No one knows who the High Lord is who's giving the information, but they're going there and they're gathering the intel so they can locate the Splintered, basically HQ, like the main guy before the Imperial Fist, so they can handle it all. So what happens is that the Imperial Fist learn and the Custodes learn about this, and they learn about where the HQ is located. Of course, the Minotaurs have all that information. So the Custodes and the Imperial Fist are about to launch their final assault to kill off the group, more or less. But before they do that, the full Minotaur chapter basically deploys drop pods in, Thunderhawks, everything you can imagine from a bloody Space Marine chapter, and they actually seize this cathedral where he's located, and they take control of it. Now, what we learn is that this whole rebellion thing was put into place by the High Lords who basically hate Guilliman. The Master of the Administratum and the Ecclesiarch, who are both dismissed off Guilliman and replaced with people that favoured his tendency more, not this static tendency. They basically have hatched a plan with some of the other High Lords on the council who also hate Guilliman, to basically show that the people because Guilliman is taking over, that life's not good on Terra anymore, and they're hoping that this will spread, and they'll basically put that back in. And of course they have the full Minotaurs on their side in all of this, because the Minotaurs apparently answer to the Master of the Administratum only. Of course, at this time, you basically have the Master of the Administratum, who's a High Lord, and you have this X1 as well. So he's basically saying, nope, give me my place back. It was illegal to dismiss me, more or less, and whatever Guilliman has done is basically illegal. It's like them trying to play for power to get their power back. Now, Jack actually goes to the High Admiral to confront her about all this situation, what's going on, and we learn that the High Admiral is actually one of these traitors. She's one of the people that actually are on the side of these people that want to go back to this static tendency. She agrees with all this, so she kind of imprisons her, not really like with handcuffs or anything, but she gets like one of her captain, I think it is, to basically stay at her side at all times, and she can't move basically off the bridge. Now, this is where the fun begins. This is like, the way this is written is absolutely amazing. Now, Valoris basically sends Valerian to go and help Alea, because he's had past things with her. There's a lot of things happen why him and Alea hook up and stuff like that and do stuff, because Alea is on the way to this cathedral to kill this Lord of the Ecclesiarch for what he tried to do to the sisters. So the sisters have gone in and they're killing basically, like all like just the normal footmen and stuff like that, and they're breaching into the cathedral, and Valerian appears behind her, but they're already breaching through the doors, and basically Valerian can see on his visor or what bloody ever it is that there's Space Marines coming, and of course the Sisters of Silence they are a match for Space Marines, but of course they're going to be massively outnumbered. So he basically says, Astartes, lock readings, engage and destroy it. And I'm like, oh my god, are the Custodes about to lay a whoop ass on some Space Marines? And they do. Them and the Sisters of Silence pounce on these Minotaurs, and it's just the carnage and just the devastation. The Custodes, how they move and how they fight, and the Sisters of Silence and Alea and how she fights, it's so well written. And basically Valerian and Alea hook back up again, and Valerian agrees to help Alea to get to this Lord to try and kill him in an act of, well, I won't say an act of vengeance, just to just kill him for trying to kill her sisterhood. Now the Minotaurs of course respond to this, so there's kind of like a mini pursuit where the Custodes and the sisters are going through the cathedral trying to make their way to this High Lord to kill him, but by being pursued by the Minotaurs, they are ahead of him and stuff like that, and everything. But there's a really cool thing happen, like Valerian and Alea and stuff, they jump down basically into the main hall where this High Lord is, but this is like where the story completely flips on its head. Now, if we go back to what I mentioned earlier in the video about Jack finding out that the assassin, Fadex, the leader of the Assassinorum, basically has been miffling with the figures, and there was like 12 assassins missing. This is why he's actually put them in place to stop this, and he's been working with Valoris all along. I'm basically sugarcoating it and going over it in the most simple way, but the way this works is it's absolute perfection. Now, if we go back onto the starship with Jack and the High Admiral who's up there, the captain that was basically looking after her was an assassin. He executes the order. Basically, the High Lords on that ship all get bloody taken out and stuff like that. While this is happening, before the actual order is given, the Phalanx is basically coming towards. the High Lord's fleet and stuff, because they said if the Imperial Fist want to start, we'll just blow the phalanx out of the sky. And basically, when the High Lords get taken out, she grabs a gun and she goes over to one of the staff and say, "Lower the bloody shields or I'll kill you." And he lowers the shields, and as soon as he lowers the shields, there's bloody Imperial Fist Terminators all over the bridge, and they take command of the fleet outside. I'm like, oh my god, this is so amazing! It's so cool. Again, I'm just sugarcoating it. It really is good. Back in the temple, there's assassins down there. They all open up with their sniper rifles. They take out the corrupted High Lords, except for Fadex, of course. Fadex, of course, which is basically be the mastermind of this. Valerian and the sisters, basically go to extract him out. And there's this big, massive battle, and all of a sudden, all the Minotaurs start pouring into the cathedral, and it's like, we can't withstand this. What can we do? Now, right before the Minotaurs are going to engage, they stop. There's this beam of light that comes down, which of course is a teleportation. And I'm like, oh bloody hell, what's this? Is this like Gilliman returned or something like that? And it wasn't. It was the High Lord of the Administratum, the one that Gilliman put in place. And she walks over to the chapter master of the Minotaurs, and she shows him the badge of her office, and she leans down and speaks to him. We don't have no idea what is what he's told or what's said or anything like that. And he basically turns, takes the chapter, and they go back to their fortress monastery, and their battle barge fortress monastery, because they are a crusading fleet, and they basically leave. No one knows actually where they leave or where they go or anything like that. They're so mysterious and stuff, but it kind of confirms that they basically answer to that office and that office alone. Well, that's what I actually took from it myself. And of course, as I mentioned, Valerian states that all this was a part of Valoris's plan. And one of the really cool things is Valoris is very, very calm, and Valerian, I won't say he gets frustrated, but he's like, why are we not doing more to do this? But of course, Valoris has basically been doing this all along. He's been playing the so-called game. Well, he actually mentions it was Valerian basically playing the blood games all along. He was in command. There's actually a note where it says the most powerful warrior on this planet never had to even lift his weapon to defeat the enemy, because Valoris is that much of an absolute badass. And it ends with basically Valoris saying, go and investigate some of this stuff more and everything like that. And it's basically, it's Valerian more or less. I think he's about to go off world. There's a lot more stuff that's hopefully coming actually in the next model. Again, I'm just really sugarcoating this and just going through the basics. It was a fantastic read, absolutely amazing from start to bloody finish. I was just in love with this book. But it was the same with the Emperor's Legion, the first book. As soon as I got into that, I was like, this is some of the best stuff ever, because there's a Siege of Terror, it's before the Great Rift, during the Great Rift, and after the Great Rift. And of course, this story follows on from that, and it has all the characters that we love from the previous book. Massively recommend to go and pick this up. Again, I've only gone over the basics. I'm not going to a full-on spoiler review. The story is amazing. There's so much more. Go and get the audio and the paperback, the ebook, whatever you want to read it on. Go and get the bloody book. You will not be let down. It's amazing. Alright, Chaperonios, that is me done for another video. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. As always, sorry this has been a bit of a long one, but I just had to get it off my chest. Absolutely fantastic, amazing read. If you've been here from the start to the finish of this, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. As always, leave your thoughts, feedback, any questions down below, and I'll do my best to try and answer them and bring you to light. Just be aware that, of course, it will be spoiler questions below, and my answers, of course, will probably contain spoilers in there as well. Thanks for coming. See you now, and bye-bye.